But before we start, yeah, I would like to know if there's if you guys are having some challenges, if you have started working on your unique canisters and stuff like that. Seeing some new faces. Maybe I wasn't noticing very well. Yeah, so feel free to speak, guys. If you're having any challenges, got any questions, you don't know where to start, how to start, feel free to unmute your mic and speak. Because we want you guys to build, so don't shy away from asking how to build. Foster Mulenga. Sorry, I'm just picking names. How are you? How are you going with homeworks and everything?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mr. Enoch.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. So, guys, just another reminder, like as we near the hackathon, what you need is to have created at least one project or canister of your own, a unique canister of your own, and you have it on your GitHub, right? That's like the gate pass of the actual hackathon, because we want to say like you are actually able to build something of your own, and during the hackathon we will be giving you. So anyone having challenges on that, feel free to shoot.
Seems like today people have electricity, right?
Yeah. it's really cool. It's a good number of people. It's a good number of people. Okay. Yeah, so I think Mr. Confidence, you can go ahead with homework one, or should I have it?
Okay, no problem. Just give me a moment.
Yes, yes. Get geared up for the hackathon, guys. Yeah, try to work on something unique. If you have any problem, thank you, Mr. William, for the link. So go ahead and register, you guys.
Okay, so guys, we'll just go through homework one. Maybe we'll do one, or let's just say 2 or 3 functions that we'll go through, so that most of you can have an idea of how to do these homeworks. So you can also see that it's not actually difficult.
So I had gone through like 1 and 2. So maybe you can just add 2 more. Maybe repeat 1 and 2 as well.
You mean you had gone through 1 and 2?
Like the add and the subtract.
Oh, okay.
And then, but you can just repeat. Yeah.
No problem. Let me share my screen. Okay, just let me know if you can see my screen before I proceed.
Yes.
Thank you. So for this homework, I'll go to homeworks. You can see these homeworks on the GitHub. If you are new here, I'll just also paste where you can find these homeworks. It's on GitHub.
Okay, so just a moment. The question to be clarified in the chat. So Mr. William, if you can explain, someone is asking if the link is the one I used yesterday or is a new one, the registration.
Yeah, which registration link are they referring to? Okay, cheers. Which link are you referring to?
The hackathon one.
Well, that one, that's the one that I was shared by Mr. Nonde Frederick, so you can use that one. And also remember to fill in the attendance form. We have the magic number there already.
Okay, thank you, Mr. William. So if you come here on projects on homework number 1, you have the task of the day, which is to read through these things. It's important that you read through this by opening these links, as they will help you out when you are implementing your homework. So just dive through the homework itself. Okay, so the task here says, on your first day of class, you enter the halls, eager to embark on your journey of a lifetime. Did you know that you have forgotten to bring an essential tool to class? A calculator. Your professor, a renowned expert in the community, begins the day's lesson by presenting a series of complex mathematical problems that require the use of a calculator. The students around you huddle together, pulling out their calculators to tackle the challenge. As you okay, I'm sorry for that. As you search your bag in vain for your calculator, you realize that you have inadvertently left it behind. Instead of panicking or admitting defeat, your resourceful nature kicks in. You decide to rely on your intelligence and aptitude in Motoko to create your own calculator. So, requirements. Your task is to create the code of for a calculator, which is implemented as a canister. The canister should have a public interface that allows users to perform calculations. The canister has a memory variable called counter, which represents the results of the most recent calculations. Okay, so I'll go through Motoko here. And as always, when you're starting any Motoko code, you put all your code inside an enter. I'm sure all of you here now understand that. So we have the first step, and the first step here says define a mutable variable called counter of type float to store the result of the most recent calculation. So it says define a mutable variable. So once you see the word mutable, you think about the keyword var. So you go ahead and find counter, and we have been told the type here. So in Motoko, remember you have to mention the type, and you are going to give it an initial value because this is where we are going to store the values of our counter. And because it's mutable, we can assign it to 0, which is an easier number to use for assignment. Okay, so here we have unused identifier counter, delete or rename wildcard, or wildcard. I'm not sure here what's the error, but I'm sure this has to also do with the float, or the float type that we just so I'm going to import from the base library. See if that will solve our issue. And use the identifier. Okay. So just define and make use of counter to see if this error will still be there. But anyway, we have done the first task here, which is to define a mutable variable called counter of type float. We go to step number 2, implement the add function, which accepts a value of x of the type float, increments the counter, and returns its new value. Okay. So we've gone over functions before. And we can just say public function. And our public function name is add. So x, or it accepts a value x of type float. So here, this is where we put the values that we are accepting here. So we are accepting X of type float, and then what are we returning? We'll return also a float after incrementing the counter. Okay, so CX. Okay. Now, our function here is supposed to increment the counter. So for us to increment the counter, any suggestions how we can implement this function of incrementing the counter? I can take suggestions. Feel free to unmute your mic. Anyone? How can we increment this counter? Any suggestions, guys? Is what I'm doing confusing? I would want to understand. Okay, since no one wants to, okay, what does it end up? Faith Chulu. She suggests that we use counter plus plus. Okay. But remember here, we are not incrementing the counter by 1 because using this in JavaScript, I think, which is it's common in JavaScript, this is incrementing by 1. We want to increment our counter, which is 0, by the input that the user is going to give us. Because here, remember, it's saying implement an add function which accepts a value X. So this is a value that is being accepted as an input from the user. So how do we do that? Okay. Counter is equal to counter plus
equals X.
Okay. Thank you for that suggestion. So you're saying counter is equal to counter plus X. Is that correct? Actually, I'm supposed to put this here. Expression of type cannot produce expected type of float. So instead of using this notation, I'm just easily saying as equal to X. That should be able to increment our counter here. And then we can return. So this is almost the same as what you have suggested. Saying counter is equal to plus X. I hope this is simple for you to understand. And thanks for that suggestion. I mean. So we've returned our counter. So what we can go ahead now and do is to deploy and test. Stone. And our canister has been installed. So just open another page to see our candid UI and test our function. So we have the add function, just like we implemented here in Motogo Playground. So I think everything looks fine. So we'll just add 6 and go. So we are supposed to get 6. Okay, let's see if we add 1. 7. So our counter is working well. So if you add 10, we're supposed to get 17 output of the return value, and we are getting 17, which is correct. Okay. Our first function, that's our first implementation. We go to the second, implement the sub function, which accepts a value x of type float, decrements the counter, and returns its new value. Okay, so since we have already done the since we've already implemented the add function, we can simply then just implement the subtract function. So here it's called sub, accepts a type a value x of type float. So it's going to accept x type float. Return again a float. So then we find out what is supposed to be done by the function here. It is going to take the value x and decrements the counter, and then it returns its new value. Okay. So what are we supposed to do here? Suggestions again. You can also type in the comment section. That's why I'm looking at the screen right now. Suggestions. Okay, Vincent is saying, okay, so just like we implemented with the addition, right? We can just use the same syntax here. Instead of putting counter at the other side of the equal sign, we can just then use a negative symbol. So we'll just say counter. You had suggested actually, because I see you had said counter minus equal sign counter minus x. So we don't need again to mention counter here. We don't need to mention counter. Okay. So we'll go ahead and say, sorry. So this is enough to subtract x from the counter, and then return the new value of them. Okay. Since we've done that, we're going to upgrade our canister instead of reinstalling it. So when we open again Candid UI, we must be able to see 2 functions now that we can interact with. Okay, so we had the add operation, now we have the subtraction. So let's start by adding probably 10. Now we have a 10. Let's test subtraction. So maybe let's subtract a 3. We must be able to get 7. Now we have a 7. Okay, Super Road, you can shoot.
Yeah, why is float 64?
Why is float?
Yeah, why is it float 64?
Okay, let me try to this is like the number of what is it called? In the documentation, read
the size of the bytes it will be able to hold. Like what, int nat 8, nat 16, nat 64.
Yeah, but there's no you did not specify float 64 on the code. So is
I think it's
float
at the default.
always 64?
I think float 64 must be the default. Let us look at the mathematical. So float is a double precision 64 bits floating point number. So I think it must be only 64. Yeah, I think so. It must be 64 bit only.
So it's a bounded number.
Yeah, there must be. Is there anything bigger than a float, Mr. Enoch?
Then a float, not really, because like, yeah, the float you can have as many decimals as you can want, any size. I guess that's why it's just 64 by
64,
default.
yeah.
You can just have literally anything.
Yeah. So I don't think there's any, but I'll do research if there's anything beyond float 64.
I would have thought an unbounded number would be more than 64. Hence the reason for the bounded integer and nat.
So I don't understand your question.
The reason for the bounded nat number, for example, is to limit the storage.
Yes.
But if it's not bounded, then it can go to any amount.
Okay.
So I guess that would be more than a float if it's not.
Also, we are suggesting that a float should not be bounded.
No, what I was just responding to the fact that the float is the largest. I was saying if it's unbounded, it will go far more than a float.
Okay, I understand. You have something to say, Mr. Enoch?
Yeah, no, not really. It's okay.
Okay, no problem. Okay, yeah, thanks for pointing that out. It's some of the things that we don't really look at when you are just using Motoko. But anyway, so yeah, here our subtraction function is working. We are good. Let's go to step number 3. It says implement the multiplication function, so it's just written more, which accepts a value x of type float, multiplies it with the counter, and returns the new value of the counter. Okay. I'll close this candid UI because we are still going to upgrade. This, let me do that. And close this also. Okay, so we're also just going to have a public function that we are going to name takes a value x of type float, just like any other, just like the other function that we type float. So hence a float. What is this one doing? Multiplies it with the counter. So it multiplies the x with the counter and then returns a new value. Suggestions? How do we implement this one? So it's basically the same concept, but we're just changing the operation, yeah.
Mr. Confidence. Sorry.
Sure.
Just trying to catch up. How have you addressed the 64?
Come again?
The 64, how have you addressed it?
Okay, it's the 64 stands for the number of bits. It remains it stands for the number of bits that are contained within the float. Okay, awesome. So yeah, suggestions on the multiplication. How do we implement this one? You can also just type in the comment section. Yes, you can go ahead and unmute your mic. Was that a mistake? Multiplication. Okay, awesome. So Vincent suggesting counter asterisk equals sign then X, which is correct. So this is simple because we are just doing the same. Yeah. So we just return our counter, and we can go ahead and test it. Upgrade our canister. And also just check here if it is being installed. Okay. We'll open our Candid UI. So for some of you, I had somebody had a question yesterday asking that when they deploy, they can't find anything. So you're supposed to come and click this arrow to expand the Candid UI into the next screen. So you're supposed to click this this arrow, and then it will open this, and then you can start playing around with your Candid UI. So add 9 will subtract. Okay, we are now going to do multiplication. So we have a 9. So let's multiply it by 2. We must be able to get 18. Okay. If you multiply by 100, 1.8 or 1,800. So that means everything is working. Okay. Then implement, we are now on number 5, implement the division function, which accepts value X of type float, divides the counter by X and returns the value of the counter. Ensure to guard against division by 0. Okay, so I'll define, again, I'll define our function. So public function. Sorry. And its name is div. It takes X of type float. And also float variable.
Okay. Mr. Confidence. I'll be jumping off in a bit. I just wanted to address the question in the group. So it looks like there's a number of new people in this call. Someone is asking, if you don't mind, can you explain what Motoko programming language and where it applies? So yeah, if you are new here, Motoko is the native language on the internet computer. This program is all about building on the internet computer, right? Creating smart contracts, full stack applications on the internet computer. So on the internet computer, you can actually build with number of languages, like Motoko, we are talking about, or Rust, or TypeScript, or Python. But in this program, we are focusing on Motoko, right? Yeah, it allows you to build on the internet computer. So I think like there's a good number of people who are new who try to cover the basics again in the evening so that you guys can catch up. And also, if you're in the Telegram group, take out the videos. We just send in the videos channel and try to follow up and really understand all the stuff we had covered already. Yes, it's strictly for back-end development. Yeah, for it's like building the canisters, the back-end canisters. That's Motoko. And
yeah, we also have some videos that are in the channel. You can look them up in the
Mr. William,
Telegram channel.
yeah, Mr. William, go ahead. Mr. Nyirenda, you can go ahead.
Fill in the attendance form. I can only see 11 participants that have filled the form here. Please do fill in the form.
Okay. Yeah, there's a form in the chat, attendance form in the chat. Make sure you fill it in, you guys. And for those who will be present for the hackathon, for the live hackathon in Zambia, fill out the hackathon link as well. Yes.
Is it possible to pin the forms in the chat box?
Pin. I'm not sure. Let me just send again.
Just check in case it works.
Oh, pinning.
I've seen the feature for pinning, so I hope it works. If you click on the same link,
all right.
an option for pinning.
Yeah. So yeah, I pinned the hackathon link. Yeah, so as you guys prepare for the hackathon, try to create a GitHub account, right? And try to have created at least one canister, one project, whatever it is, simple or complicated. But just try to have at least one canister with your own implementation of a canister, and then you submit it before the hackathon. So yeah, we no longer have a lot of time, so you may not worry much about the homeworks, really, like trying to finish all the homeworks. Just go through the homeworks so that you actually practice and know how to actually build something. And then as soon as you feel a bit comfortable, like you can build something on your own, then build your own unique canister and put it on GitHub. So yeah, very important that. So yeah, that's all from me for now. We can catch up in the evening, and be sure to join all of you guys, and we'll go through the basics again. Have a good day. Mr. Confident will finish up with you.
Thanks, Mr.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, for those of you who are still new, you can find the videos in the Telegram channel. There is another sub. I'm not sure where the background noise is coming.
I hope there's a quiz at the end of the session.
Let's see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so I was saying that for those of us who are new, also just go in the channel, you'll see a subtopic that is written videos, and you'll see all the videos there, and you can watch them and catch up. Then if you have questions, always just ask in the group. We'll always be there to answer all your questions and to help you catch up. Okay. So we're going through the subtraction, the division actually. So I will just go over it again. Implement the division function which accepts a value x of type float, divides the counter by x, and returns the new value of the counter. Here note there is an issue, ensure to guard against division by 0. Okay. As we all know, dividing any number by 0 produces an infinite number. So we have to guard ourselves against that. So I've implemented the function now. Any suggestions of how to implement this? Okay. There is Faith suggesting we use a try and catch. Okay, I'm just reading through your code. Let's just try it. Actually, Motoko, does it support tries and catches? We'll just find out now. For the sake of others who are here, we don't have a try. So here we usually use what is called a result. So, if Faith you're you or not, but we use what is in Motoko, we use what is called a result type. I will not go through it, but we can look for another simpler way of implementing this instead of using a try catch. Any other suggestions? But thank you for that, Faith. Any other suggestions? So since we've been implementing this like this, we just say in a simple way, counter x counter. This looks okay. There's no error, but then still, if the user inputs a 0, then it's going to make our program crash, right? So this is, we want to avoid division by 0. Yeah, that's all that we want to do. We just want to avoid division by 0. So how do we actually do that? If you see me looking at this other screen, is because I have 2 screens, so I'm looking at the chart and at the call actually to see if there's any suggestions. So yes, we want to avoid division by 0. It's very simple, guys. You don't have to think too much outside of the box. How do we avoid this case of a 0? What statement we use? Okay, if x is equal to so Mazuba, you're suggesting an if statement. Okay, use an if statement to check if 0 is equal to, if x is equal to 0. I'm sorry about that. Okay, no problem. So yeah, that's what we'll simplify it. So we'll just check for 0. So we'll say if x is equal to 0, we open our clip pages. What are we supposed to do in the case that x is equal to 0? What are we supposed to do? Because we don't want our program to do that computation. We don't want to perform the division if x is equal to 0. Okay, so you can return an error message, Vincent suggested. Yes, or we can just return 0 also. Okay. So that's a good suggestion, Vincent. So we'll just return 0. Okay, then we'll then have an else statement because we have an if statement. So when we have in the else statement, then now this is where we perform our division. This is for any other case other than 0. So, copy and paste that. I'll close off by what you call it, a semicolon. So now we can go ahead and redeploy our code. So here we'll just check it's deploying again. It is installed. So when you see this message that says the code has been installed in the canister, you can go ahead now and then you check your canister. So we'll start by adding 10. So at least we have a whole number. Then we'll then try to divide by 0 first to check if our if statement is working. So like you can see here, it is returned a 0. And then our program did not crash. Okay. Then we can divide by 5. Let's make it simple. It returns 2. That's good. We can further divide by, let's say, 9. We haven't really tested for floats, for float numbers. Okay, so we get a float, which is 0.222222. We can do a multiplication. Let's do a multiplication by 8. See what it returns. It returns a 4, which is correct. Okay. I didn't mean to send the line of code. It's fine, Mazuba. Okay, that's good. So I hope everybody really understands this, and this is easy for you guys to understand in short. Any questions, please? I'll leave you to do the rest, which is reset, C, power, square root, the flow, and the calculator. Deploy the calculator, sorry. So we've done until the division, so you have 5 more for you guys to do on your own. Any questions? So when you are done with all these functions and you have deployed, you have deployed your canister, what you do is you copy this canister ID Let me just accept participants. Okay, so when you're done, you copy this canister ID. That is if you are done with all these functions. You have implemented all these functions and you have deployed it here and you get this canister ID. The next thing that you do is you come on the website here. Then you use your internet identity to log in. So I'll just use mine. So here I'm just using a fingerprint on my MacBook. So now it's logging me in. Okay, it will take you to this dashboard where you can come and then submit your canister ID and say this is homework 1. Then you just click submit. So if everything is correct, it will tell you that everything is good. But here you can see it's giving you an error. It's saying unexpected error. Canister this has no update method C. So if you remember, there is the C function, there is the power and everything. So it will check for each and every function to see if those functions are available. So if you have any error in one of the functions or you didn't implement your function in the correct way, you will always get an error here. Until you have corrected everything, then you'll be able to successfully submit your homework. Okay. I hope that was simple to understand. So these homeworks, like I said again, I'll share the link to these homeworks. They are really simple. You don't have to go and spend a lot of time looking for resources for you to understand this. What you do, if this is homework number 1, you open homework number 1, and then you will see the task of the day. So all you have to do is to read. So here it says, use this list of guide for your homework. It contains all the materials that you need to read and the challenges you need to tackle. So read this in full, read the concepts of variables, comments, functions. Also read on natural numbers, integers, Boolean, and float, and how you can also just make use of some of the types in Motoko. Then after that, you can go on the project of the day. That's where you will see what you're supposed to do to submit your homework. And then when you're done, you deploy it here on Motoko Playground if you don't want to have a lot of issues. This is just for the sake of learning and understanding the concept. And then when you have deployed and you've got your canister ID, you come here, you log in, and then you submit your homework. I hope that was easy to understand. So any questions? I think it's already time, 11 o'clock. I'm not sure. I'm still seeing other people are still joining. But yeah, again, we'll have another session in the evening, and we can go on homework number 2. So what's ideal, guys, is for you to actually try to attempt these homeworks before we go over them. So attempt homework number 2 during the day today. All you have to do again is to come on homework number 2. So if you go back on homeworks, go on homework number 2, you read the task of the day, and when you're done, you go on project. Everything that you need to implement on the homework, you'll find it in these resources that we have listed for you to read. Okay. So any questions before we end this session? Any suggestions, anything? I am audible, right?
Oh, very much loud and clear.
Awesome. Okay, I hope that was simple to understand. For those who are new, you can also just make use of this Motoko repository that I have shared with you in the chat. I'll share it with you on Telegram also, so that you can go over it and get an understanding of what we've been going through. You can go and watch the videos, especially the first probably 5 sessions, to understand what Motoko is. And after that, you can then go ahead and start working on the challenges. This will help you better understand how to work with Motoko. Motoko is very easy. I could see some of the suggestions from people like Faith. I'm so sure you are good at TypeScript. And for you to move from TypeScript from JavaScript to Motoko, it will be easier for you to understand. You just need to understand where there are the other issues where there is some differences between the Motoko languages and JavaScript. Okay, Telegram link. I've pasted in the chat, sir. So we have another evening session.
Possible.
If you have any,
I saw WhatsApp link. I think others are not on Telegram. So.
they're on WhatsApp. Okay. So maybe you can also share with them the Telegram link.
Okay.
In the WhatsApp group so they can see.
Okay.
But yeah, guys, that was it for today. We'll see you in the evening. We have an evening session at 8. So make sure you jump in. If you have questions, if you have any challenges that you've been having during the day, just make sure you come in and ask any questions. Or if you are facing any errors, just ask in the group. We also have other people who will be ready to answer your questions during the day. Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you in the evening.